All right, welcome back, guys. Now I got my guy Greg Panelli here, QB Monday, the QB extraordinaire, the QB trainer, the GOAT, the guy that he got a lot of kids in the playoffs, man. How were some of their performances? And you just lost one, Cruz Herrera. He lost. I saw
Yep.
little
Cruz
Coronado.
took down the city of Stockton. He
Oh,
took
from
down
what
everybody else in Stockton. He took down Edison. He took down Lincoln. They lost
you
to
know what I'm saying?
Rockland High
I'm
School.
I'm still holding it down for E House, man.
Yeah, there you go. No, he took them down. They lost to Rockland. They were up 10 with 2 minutes to go and ended up losing the game. So not ideal. Yeah, Nick Coronado, one of the quarterbacks from Tracy, California, Kimball High School. He's the leader in the state for passing right now. I think he's got like 57
Nick.
touchdowns to 4 picks or something like that. Something crazy.
Let's go,
He's
Nick.
top 5 in the country. Yeah, so Nick's balling out, and I know you had Nick when he was I think he was an 8th grader, 7th, 8th grader, right, on 7-on-7?
Yeah, middle school kid. Yeah, I had him middle school,
Yeah.
7-on-7.
Yep, and
That's
then
what's
so
up.
we have Strand out there in Arkansas.
I know Strand taking the L, but his last high school pass was a touchdown, so that's cool.
Yeah,
Do you think that 7-on-7? I mean, obviously there's trainers like you out there, and you're really helping develop a lot of these young kids. Do you think that 7-on-7 is contributing to maybe quarterbacks just being able to throw the ball better nowadays? Because everybody's throwing the ball around. You see, like I said, like a Nick Coronado, throwing for 57 touchdowns. Is 7-on-7 helping with that, or do you think that's just him with his training, his coach, and things like that, and that's contributing more to the success?
I think it depends. I really think it depends because I think the training, I think the body work, I think the confidence, I think the cool thing about what they've done compared to a lot of high schools is they've all kind of stuck together, which you see a lot of high schools when a little bit of success starts to come. It's like, what's the next step? Where can I go that's a bigger high school that's going to give me more exposure? And I know you know of a couple kids from Stockton, and I'm not going to mention it, but there's a few that leave to schools, other Southern California schools, Sacramento schools, Bay Area schools, whatever it may be, that might get
You're
them
talking
more
about
exposure.
Raleigh Brown.
Yeah, Raleigh.
So
I got mad love for him. Don't get me wrong, I got mad love for him, but I don't feel like Raleigh needed to do that to get more exposure because he had the offers already anyways. Now, I do get it where you want to play maybe a better talent pool overall and get you ready for the next level. But a lot of kids do that, not necessarily in his position where they would leave and go to another school to get better offers when they're already at a school that gets enough exposure as it is already. Now, don't get me wrong, modern day, completely different than Edison High School in Stockton as far as exposure. But Edison is getting a lot of exposure now, which is good.
Yeah,
they got a few guys on their team. USC, right? So
when it came to Raleigh, though, because I had the same thought process when I found out. I think we were at that banquet, and that was when I heard like Raleigh was transferring to modern day. And my thing was like, man, you already got the offers to USC, Alabama, everybody in the nation. Like, why leave? And I never talked to Raleigh about his offers, about anything. Like with me, it was always just on the field coaching. Like, Raleigh, get your eyes out the backfield. Why are you doing that? Oh, Raleigh, I need you to play safety right here. It was never about like all the offers and the attention he got off the field. But I will say this: since him leaving to modern day, and flying to Texas to play against Duncanville, playing against Bosco, playing in front of those type of crowds in that atmosphere, I understood it after I saw it. I'm like, okay, I get it. If I'm a 5-star
thing is what you've
running
seen.
back on the top of the nation, I do it too. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people were probably thinking the kid's going to go get exposed because he's good in Stockton, but he's not good enough to play in modern day. And then he goes to modern day and it's absolutely lighting it up, not skipping a beat. So he's proved his worth. Like, he's done really well there. So I'm not knocking the kid. I think Raleigh has done a great job. But a lot of kids will obviously do that stuff. So it's cool to see Nick's team over there in Kimball kind of stick together. So I think for the 7-on-7 stuff, it just depends. And you know as well as I do, if 7-on-7 football is not quarterback driven, it becomes very backyard football-ish mesh concepts constantly, man crossers, into throwing deep balls. Like that's kind of 7-on-7 is mesh crossers, pick routes, and deep balls. So if it's not a quarterback-driven offense, then
they're not learning.
To me, it just becomes it's how it is, taking the snaps and taking 5 hitches before they throw the ball, and it's unrealistic footwork, unrealistic expectations of the quarterback, and it's really not reading defenses because you called 7-on-7. Like how many times realistically were you running a true zone type of defense when you don't have to have any run responsibilities? In most tournaments, you don't have any run responsibilities, so everybody just kind of bails out of there and is playing, much deeper than they would be, or you're running 2-man, or these different types of coverages. But at the end of the day, it's going to become man anyways because guys are pushing vert and they match up there after 10 yards anyway. So it's like a bunch of it just depends. I see a bunch of it. That's a question I get a lot. I'm sure my kid plays 7-on-7, and it's depending on the coaching staff. I think if you get a coaching staff that's going to make it quarterback driven, or it's going to be quarterback driven where the quarterback will have responsibilities and reads and progressions and things like that, which becomes a little bit distracting, if you would, in the 7-on-7 world because, again, the defense neglects some of the responsibilities as far as run game play, right? So they're dropping right off the bat. So you're kind of taking what they're giving you, which you should in real games anyways, but what you're giving in 7-on-7 is more unrealistic than what you would see in a real game. And the timing, throwing the ball, sitting back there in the pocket with nobody rushing, and you got 4 seconds on the quarterback tee, and you're hitching, and you're scanning the whole field left and right 2 times is not really realistic. So if there's some type of responsibility from the quarterback position, I think it's good, but I had 3 Division I quarterbacks out of high school last year, and not one of them played on a 7-on-7 team. So when I talk to college coaches every week, I don't have college coaches that call me and ask, hey, what 7-on-7 team is he playing for? If that makes sense.
Right.
And it's not a shot at 7-on-7. Like I don't mind it. Like I think it's good for the kids if they do it right. But again, there's not a coach in the country as far as quarterbacks go that are going to say, hey, we want this kid because he balled out in this 7-on-7 tournament. Now, for the athletes, that's different. They get to show their speed, get to show the jumping ability, and coverage skills, especially as a DB. Like 7-on-7 for DBs, that's different because the game becomes a disadvantage for a DB in 7-on-7. So you could see guys flip their hips. You can see their vertical speed once they flip and run, their break speed because, again, they're at a disadvantage when a quarterback's got 4 seconds to throw the ball. You got to keep on running with dudes instead of, 2.5 seconds in high school and the ball's out because, they're going to get sacked or whatever it may be.
So speaking of being at a disadvantage, we got MILF Hunter here, and he says, Grant Cohn says, 49ers should put Deebo Samuel at running back to pay him less. All right. Now that's actually –
hold on. MILF Hunter, what is that?
He's hunting down MILFs.
Man, it sounds like that dude you were tweeting about yesterday. I'm not even going to blast him, though. Go 49ers Mike. What was his name on there?
No, man. Okay, yeah. But did you see how that whole thing came about?
So I was looking through. Okay, so I seen you tweet about it, and I looked at the thread, and I'm like, what is Crocker talking about? Like you were laughing. I was in my car, like literally stopped in traffic on 99 yesterday, going to Modesto to train quarterbacks. And I'm sitting here looking at it, like dead stop, accident in the middle of the freeway. And I'm like, gosh, damn it. So I pulled up Twitter. I'm like, boom, I seen your video. And I pulled it up, and literally I'm watching you laugh constantly on Twitter. And I literally, I could not – it was one of those videos where you can't not watch it and not start dying laughing because you're dying laughing. So I started laughing. I'm like, what is he laughing about? And then I go through the thread. I go back to find it, and I'm like, what is this? And then I see – the screenshot, and I was like, no way. Like, come on, bro, you gotta crop that. Like, you gotta do a little bit more diligence if you're gonna post that to Twitter. Like, you gotta double check at least. I mean, maybe it was just like, hey, I'm gonna throw it out there and make a joke about it, but I'm not touching on that. You could touch on that. I don't want to roast anybody on here.
My guy, he's my guy. I'm chilling. It's the morning, and I see him in that. You could see him. He's in that Spaces on Twitter, right? I'm like, and for those of you who don't follow me, Eric_Twitter on, Eric_Crocker on Twitter, at Greg_Panelli. Follow him as well on Twitter. So I see my guy in the thing. You could see it. And I'm looking at the title, and I'm like, what the hell is he in? Like, what is that? So I screenshot it, and I meant to send it to him and be like, Mike, why are you in this Spaces? But, sometimes I get busy. My head is all over the place. So I just forgot. So the next morning, somebody was like, hey, man, some of these Spaces on Twitter are wild that people be in. And I commented, and I was like, yeah, I saw Mike in one yesterday. And then a girl commented, and she was like, yeah, I saw him in there too. And so Mike is like, y'all can see that? Because before you weren't able to see it, somebody was just listening. You like, if I'm in the Spaces, you just see, like, if I'm talking, then it would pop up. But if I'm not speaking in it, and I'm just listening.
When you do your halftime show, like that type of space is what you're talking about? Like that?
Yeah. So, but when I do my halftime show, you'll see that I'm speaking. But typically, if somebody's just listening, then you don't just like see them in there like that. You see the speakers. Well, I guess now there's something. I don't know if there's a glitch or what, but you can actually see the people that are listening as well. So I see this crazy ass title. And so he was like, so the girl was like, oh yeah, and I'm like, dude, like I actually screenshot. I meant to send it to you, and he's like, oh, I need to see that. So I'm like, all right, here it is.
It was free game. It was free game at that
point. So I'm not thinking that he wants me to like DM it to him or text him or anything. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I sent it in. So he's like, Phil, you could have DM me that. You could have texted me that. It's like, bro, you're in there. And then since then, I've seen like a couple of other ones where people
is out there.
Yeah, so yeah, he got it. He got to chill.
Wild.
Yeah, he got to chill. But anyways, let's get to the 49ers. We do have Milf Hunter, and he says 49ers put Debo at running back to pay him less. That's what Grant Cohn thinks. And I would say I get it in theory, that makes sense, but what are you gonna do? Pay him like a running back and then be like, all right, psych, we're putting you at receiver. Like, nah, his agent ain't going for that. So it sounds good. I get what Grant's saying.
His agent ain't that stupid.
Right. I get what Grant is saying, though. If the 49ers could do that, then yeah, it would make a lot of sense. But there's no way. There's no way. All right, here we go. Crocker is hella funny dying. Yeah, that had me dying. All right, anyways, let's get into some of these throws. So one, do you want to go over the throws first from Jimmy Garoppolo, or do you want to just give kind of your opinion on it and then get into it? How do you want to do it?
Yeah, no. So I was watching the game, obviously. Took some screen recordings and I sent them to you off the Game Pass. Just last night, I was watching some things, and we talked about Jimmy in the state that he's in and what he's been doing and how well he's been doing things the last few weeks. And I feel like it's gotten repetitive, which is good. Like, I'd rather have us talking about how well Jimmy's doing versus the crappy things that he's doing over and over, and we're losing games or whatever it may be. But I took a couple screenshots, so I did throw a couple misses in there because I'm gonna tailor towards the still play Trey Lance people that are out there.
Yeah,
because that's still gonna be a topic, and I'm still gonna see. I'm sure Grant's out there right now on Twitter talking about how Trey Lance should still be playing in the game, and they would have won by 50 yesterday if he was playing. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's just it's. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at what Jimmy's been doing as far as efficiency, as far as operating the offense. Now, we talked about it, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. Croc, you're playing with fire. You might want to hide those DMs, or you're going to get exposed here real quick.
Oh no, I ain't got nothing crazy in there.
You're going to look like porn star Jimmy here in a second if somebody sends you a crazy message.
No, there's no messages in there. I'll be good.
No, I'm messing with you. So, the thing is I was talking about it yesterday, and I still got to go back and really watch the game with the Bills game. The Bills lost yesterday, obviously. my dude Josh did not have the greatest day. You know, and I'm not bashing on him by any means, but the thing that you get with guys with strong arms and guys like Mahomes, guys like Josh, guys like even Kyler Murray sometimes, and Trey Lance's of the world, and they get away with, they make so many good throws, so many like out of this world, holy crap, how did he make that throw type of throws, that make you necessarily sometimes forget about the little misses that they have. And when you don't have those sexy throws within a game, sometimes those little misses get exposed a little bit more. So that's that high risk, high reward. Like you can throw without your feet underneath you and make up for it with your arm talent, which those guys can do. Trey Lance can obviously do that. So it's the high risk, high reward thing. A lot of times those guys will try and overpower balls with their arm talent. They don't necessarily get their feet set all the time because they don't have to get their feet set all the time. So it's a different style of play than what Jimmy brings. And that's the difference, is people want to see that style because, and I get it too, because it brings a different element. And it's like, well, what if he's playing? Now we have the deep threats. Now we have the long ball down the field. But would you take that with the high risk? Or would you take the efficiency that you've been getting with Jimmy G? And I guess that'd be a question for the folks that are listening. It's like, realistically speaking, I think you'd be crazy to say that there should be a change made based on the efficiency that we've seen over the last month, or month and a half, whatever it may be, from Jimmy Garoppolo. So I don't, Trey Lance,
the most efficient quarterback in football, the most efficient quarterback in football over the last 4 weeks. Or over the last 4 games.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. So, and a lot of people have asked on Twitter, what do you think is the difference? And realistically, I think that it's Shanahan getting back to the offense that got him to where they are. I think it's the play calls, the diversity within the playbook. Throwing Debo at running back. I mean, it's like, what the hell were the Jags doing? You watch the game, you're like, Debo's at running back. They're really not going to use him as a decoy at running back. Not much. They haven't shown it yet. And he was still cooking their ass. So it's like, what are you doing? Now, so like getting into that part of the offense with Shanahan and what he's done, I think that has helped Jimmy's confidence. And then he's put Jimmy in the shotgun more with his when they're doing their pass plays. But yesterday, again, there's a screenshot on here or a screen recording on here that we'll talk about the play action stuff. But Jimmy throws the ball on time a lot. He reads the flat defenders really well. He reads the middle of the field really well. He throws a lot of passes over the middle of the field that a lot of other quarterbacks don't necessarily throw, because you get inside the hashes and things get tight. Gets a little bit spooky inside the hashes for quarterbacks because guys are a lot faster. Safeties roll down, whatever it may be. You got robbers playing in the middle of the field. So Jimmy does a good job of that stuff. Like, that's, to me, that is really underlooked as far as what he does in his game, is the ability to throw the ball over the middle. Now I'm saying this again, I'm throwing a pick over the middle, knock on wood, next week. So hopefully he doesn't, but he does. He throws the ball over the middle really well with a lot of confidence, and he throws it on time a lot. So from a quarterback coaching perspective, we looked at it, comparing it to Josh last week, with Jimmy's throws inside the numbers, or basically almost inside the hashes. Like 90% of his throws were inside the hashes, I think. And then you look at Josh's, they were, I think, probably like 65, 70% of his throws were outside the hashes. So it's a completely different style of game now. Given the arm talent, that's different. But you can make those throws from the opposite hash to the far side of the field, or to the wide side of the field. So I like the efficiency. I think that Jimmy's done a good job. Obviously, we got a little bit of help yesterday with some stupid penalties from the Jaguars that extended some drives. That it wasn't all just the Niners killing it. There was some stupid mistakes made from the Jaguars that definitely helped them out. I know one of them was on a sack.
Yeah.
I think it was the first drive of the game or second drive of the game where they got a sack and then the Niners kept moving. But no, I think overall he's done a really good job. There's a couple there. We saw him throw a deep ball, not a deep ball, but kind of a go ball on a cover one, or not even cover. I don't even know if it was cover one. It might have been two match, but it's yes, he's an NFL quarterback, but I'll say this: like, they don't throw the ball vertically a lot. So he doesn't have many opportunities to necessarily practice the deep ball in live rep situations. So he missed it.
Also, I don't think it was as bad as people are saying. I've always talked about
it wasn't terrible. That's one of those throws where it's like, go ahead.
Yeah, the go route is the lowest percentage throw a quarterback can attempt. So more times than not, when throwing a go route, I'd say probably 90% of the time, it's not just on the money. Like the receiver just hits him in stride, doesn't have to adjust anything, right? Unless you're Aaron Rodgers. Now, most of the time he hits it in stride. But most quarterbacks, they just put it in an area to where their receiver can adjust and make a play. And I thought he put that ball in an area 50-50 where balls. Deebo Samuel could adjust and make a play, and he just didn't make that play for him. So, yeah, that was kind of my kind of outlook on that whole thing. But let's get into some of these plays here. All right. Here we go.
And like I said, we've been talking about the positives, so I wanted to show some of the negatives or some of the things that he might be able to do a little bit differently. I think it's that leak flat or that flat route, that mesh concept coming across. So if you look, for those who don't necessarily know what mesh concept is, it's crossers across the middle. So you're trying to get guys here. Pause it right there.
Okay, hold on.
Right there. Okay, so you see both of them across the middle. It's Juszczyk, right? And I think it was Wilson. So they're going across the middle, and basically it becomes a natural pick play. So Juszczyk, as he crosses, Wilson, I think, goes underneath, and it becomes a natural pick play. So that middle linebacker is rolling off a play action. So rewind it just a hair, Croc.
More.
A little bit more.
More.
Yep. Yeah, just go over from right under center real quick. So you got Deebo in the backfield, okay? And then you got Wilson out to the left there, playing tight. Yep, and then you got Juszczyk on the right side.
Is this Ayuk with his hand in the dirt?
I can't tell because the screen's so small. It
next
looks
to
like
Wilson. Hold on. That is him.
It is. So you look. So these are like those things that we're talking about. Look at the diversity of the offense. Like how do you see this? Like this personnel group realistically is because of what's on the field.
It's 21 personnel.
Who's playing fullback here? Right.
That's
who's
George
playing
Kittle.
Fullback here.
George Kittle.
Okay, so that's Kittle. So realistically, because you got Kittle in there, right? 2 running backs, 1 tight end, but you got Juszczyk there. So there's your 1 running back. The other running back would be Deebo, right? But then you got Wilson out there. So there's your other running back, right? So the personnel groups are all thrown off. Then you got Ayuk with his hand in the dirt. So realistically, you got 3 running backs out there if you really wanted to count them as running backs and 2 tight ends, right?
Right.
Because Ayuk's got his hand in the dirt. But when they get up to line of scrimmage, they're thinking it's 21 personnel. And you get this formation, that's what throws them out of whack. So
look at them right now. Look how they're coiled up in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even know what to do.
You ever see a defense doing that. I mean, like if you talk about leverage points, like what if Juszczyk runs a 5-yard speed out with that leverage right there? Or just runs a flat right now or a bubble right now?
Right.
Like how do you play that as an outside backer? Because their leverage is jacked up now because of who the hell's on the field and where they are. Now you talk about the efficiency of play action. We're going to talk about it again as you go ahead and start it.
All right, here we go.
So watch the backers in the middle. Deebo goes left. Okay, now you're freezing linebackers, right? And you're getting the linebackers to move wide. Now he's got Wilson out there in the flat, okay? This is one of those balls where he was wide open, and he missed him, right? He missed him a little bit, and people watch this on the first drive of the game. You're like, gosh, damn, that's a touchdown, easy. That's a gimme route, right? This is one of those throws like If it's 6 inches closer to Wilson, it's on the money, right? Or if it's a receiver, maybe he catches it. I don't necessarily think this is a terrible ball, but this is one of those ones that Jimmy, like you see him wide open, like you literally could have just thrown it underhand to him and he's got it. But
there are a lot of people saying that Wilson slowed down. They're saying Wilson slowed down.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if that's Deebo Samuel or if that's Ayuk, that's a touchdown.
I don't even think he's so much like, I mean, technically, I guess, but I think he's just looking like, damn, there's nobody. So he's kind of like, all right, like, just get it to me.
Okay, I'm going to throttle it down right here and just get it to me. And then by the time it snaps on him, it's too far.
It's like when you're that wide open, it's like, what's the point of me just sprinting all balls to the wall, 100% full speed? So it's just like, hey, I'm open. Just toss it to me real quick, and we got a touchdown. I think that's what we're seeing. Instead of some people just thinking, oh, he's just slowing down because he doesn't think he's getting the ball. I think he thinks he's getting the ball. He's just like, there's nobody covering me. Just toss it to me. It's an easy touchdown. And Jimmy kind of
And Jimmy put it in front of him. So Jimmy pops his head around on play action, gets a little rushed with his feet, tries to get it out there. It wasn't a bad throw. Like I said, if that's a receiver, I think all of us could agree that's probably a touchdown 10 out of 10 times. Then there was this one. I think this one was just a play action. Yeah, so pause it right here. This is just a run play, inside zone run. But if you look at the defensive end up top, okay, and then you look at the backer, it'd be the number 2. I think it's the number 2 defender.
Are you able to see my
number 2 outside? Yeah. So go ahead and click on it real quick. I think I don't know if that's a nickel. The screen's so small I can't see right now. So yeah, he rolls down in the box, right? So you got the outside, the defensive end right there, or outside backer because they run that 3-4-ish look. Okay. Now watch number 2. So see the number 2 defender behind him?
Yep.
Right there. Yep. Okay. So watch the defensive end and the number 2 defender. This is how effective play action is right here. Look at all those guys going out with a run now. And you got the defensive end playing what? Play action, right? So look at the cutback lane now. Because those guys, Jimmy sold his play action. So now look at the cutback lane. Guys are completely out of position. And you want to talk about run efficiency and selling play action. This is a great tool for young quarterbacks. If Jimmy doesn't sell that play action like he does.
Jimmy takes, because of Jimmy selling the play action, he takes him, and he has him running up with the receiver. Everybody thinking it's play action, and all while Wilson has the ball.
Yep. And that's
you're saying that a big part of it is
to what we do.
A big part of it is Jimmy Garoppolo maybe making things look the same, right? Whether it's a play action or him keeping the ball to potentially throw it.
Absolutely.
So essentially carrying out
these are small details these are small details, like you just said, carrying out your fake. Kids, especially at the high school level, even college level, it's easy for them to get lazy, especially in the gun offense where they're doing this zone read stuff and they'll just hand it off and let guys go. But you see right here where he actually busts out the first couple steps after he hands it off. Okay. That right there.
Even George Kittle, look at George Kittle.
Is holding defenders.
George Kittle's looking because he's thinking like, oh, the guy's going to crash down. I'm going to have to block him. And he's running away. George Kittle's like, hey, where you going?
Yep.
Even so George Kittle's thrown off.
Because he sold him so hard on it. So, like, these are the little details that people that go unseen a lot. But if he doesn't do that the way he does, what is that, a 10-yard rush right there? Like that stuff over and over and over again, where you took 3 defenders out of the play just by carrying out a play fake. So those are huge. Those are big wins on offense. And those are things that that's the benefit to Shanahan's offense too. So now this one right here, this one is a miss. Okay. So we go play action right up the middle under center, then use check is leaking out there. And to me, yes, you can call that tight coverage, whatever it may be. It wasn't tight enough to miss it. He kind of throws that 2-ball-ish, almost like hard with an arc type of ball. Now, don't get me wrong. He's giving him a catchable ball. You got corner on the backside, right? You can't throw it too soft. And then you got somebody trailing. I wish that this one right here, especially with Juszczyk being a tight end coming out of college, somebody who can catch the ball, I wish that Jimmy would stick his foot in the ground right here and throw a freaking laser at him. Just put it on him. Throw him a bullet. Put it right on him, right in front of him, instead of trying to make that little layered-ish throw because he tries to get, I think, half-assed, too touchy with it. So this is one of those misses. And like I said, I'm showing people the negatives because Jimmy's done so well the last couple of weeks. I wanted to expose the negatives for those folks that are out there that enjoy seeing the partial failures from Jimmy Garoppolo in hopes that Trey Lance will get into the game at some point. But
Trey ain't getting it.
He
ain't getting there right now.
It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Again, I just think he can put that ball on him a little bit more. And really, it's more of one of those fastball throws out of the break. And I see what he's doing. He's trying to anticipate it out of the break and just give him a ball. But I think that he can stick it. And you watch his feet. He kind of maybe felt that ghost pressure, if you would, right there. He could have stepped into that probably a little bit more and drove it. But that's just me being, the nitpicking quarterback coach here. So that was one of those misses. And I think I had one more on there. Right here. So you talk about on time, throwing the ball, play action. This is that one to Ayuk. Here, boom. Deep over or deep dig route, on time, right out, hitch, drive. There's no double hitches, no stepping up. Even though he gets that outside pressure, he knows he's got blockers in front of him, takes that one hitch in the pocket, and he's throwing that thing on time. Perfect ball for Ayuk to get it. High and away, knocks down the defender. Strong catch from Ayuk, too, who balled out yesterday. But that's a clean throw. And I know, again, people, it's not that big of a deal. Those are the things you get from an experienced quarterback. A lot of other quarterbacks would see that pressure from the front side and want to take those double hitches to get back up in the pocket. But if he hitches one more time there, he'll end up being late, okay? Or he's going to give the defender a chance to maybe recover. But instead, he throws him open. High, Ayuk goes and gets it. Hence the reason why they drafted him. And there we go for 25, 30 yards up the field. So those are the good things that, the good and the bad from Jimmy Garoppolo. There was plenty of other throws. First drive of the game, first play of the game. They go play action to the right. He pops his head around, D ends in his face, throws off platform without his feet underneath him, pops it to Kittle, and they're moving the chains right off the bat. So those little throws, like the off-platform throws, with guys in his face, I think that Jimmy does a really good job at those things. So, I hope that he stays on it. He's looked really good up to this point, the last couple of weeks. So I can't see, obviously they might just do some of the package stuff. They throw Trey in at the end of the game and he does his little thing and he's doing his own read and stuff like that. So I think it's a good opportunity for Trey Lance to obviously continue to sit and learn, especially with the way that Jimmy's playing right now.
Yeah, and also I think these are the things that we were expecting to see from him throughout the year, right? Like, when you hear that they're keeping Jimmy Garoppolo and he's the starting quarterback, I think from the jump, people were expecting to see this level of play from him where, again, it might not be like the sexy, splashy plays, but it's high level efficiency. And, you were hoping to get that from him as opposed to going to a rookie and having to play through some of those growing pains. Well, now Jimmy is playing how you expect him to play early on. I think he's having good complementary football from his teammates, not turning the ball over, not committing penalties. 49ers defense finally taking the ball over. I think overall that's what's leading to wins. And again, if he continues to do that, then there is no need to see Trey Lance. Now, again, there is that you gave up a lot for him. And there's that aspect of, developing him and getting him to see these things. So, his clock is slowed down a little bit to where next year he doesn't have to go through these growing pains, because now that's the question now, right? Everything you talked about was about, Jimmy, seeing things, carrying out fakes, the timing of throws. Well, if Trey Lance isn't getting those in-game reps and the understanding of how to do those things now, is that just going to carry over to next year? And now he's going to have to go through it and you've just prolonged a process that has to happen regardless?
I think that seeing it and seeing the film study, being in the meetings, watching Jimmy do the things that he's doing and having success with it is beneficial. Now, do I see that playing experience, like getting into a game and actually playing? Obviously, you can't really mirror those reps that you would get into a game versus maybe the twos or scout team or running with a the ones here and there against the twos defense in practice. It's never going to be game-like, and you know that. At practice, very rarely is it ever going to be truly game-like, especially at quarterback where you're never getting touched at practice anyways. So you don't feel the same heat from the D-line or corners blitzing or, whatever it may be. So I wouldn't say it's prolonging the process. I think that if you look, like we've talked about, you look at the success from guys in the NFL and guys who have sat in the NFL, to name a few. I mean, there's plenty of dudes that got to sit for 2 to 3 years. Like Aaron Rodgers didn't even play year 2. He might have played a little bit, but he didn't play year 2.
Right.
We talked about Brady. We talked about Steve Young. We talked about plenty of other guys that have had to sit and learn and develop and understand the playbook a little bit more, because that's the thing too. And we talked about it with Josh. Like when I asked Josh, year 1, how do you feel? It's like they're given a fraction of the playbook because they're so extensive and there's so much information that you got to learn, especially in an offense probably like Shanahan's, where there's a ton of different things that they're doing. So he said Favre was a Hall of Famer, chill great. Yeah, I know Favre was a Hall of Famer, hence why Aaron Rodgers was sitting behind him.
I think what he's saying is Aaron Rodgers, you can't compare the situations because Rodgers was sitting behind a Hall of Famer as opposed to Trey Lance,
I get that,
but
I get it, but you're sitting him behind a quarterback that threw for over 4,000 yards and took him, right along to the Super Bowl with their run game and the defense, and has played in the Super Bowl and should have won a Super Bowl. We've talked about that before. If the play calling stayed the same, then we wouldn't even be talking about it. Jimmy Garoppolo would have a Super Bowl ring as his own, not as a backup for Tom Brady. So, I think
what you're saying is
you can't. Let me ask you
yes,
this.
he's not one of the greats.
Would you want him to? No,
right?
But would you
He's not one of these. He said
Jimmy G, quarterback.
Jimmy J and Favre, Montana, Bledsoe. But what you're saying is, yeah, okay, he's not those guys, but he is a quarterback that wins, and he can win, and he can play winning football, and he can do things the right way to kind of, let a guy that needs developing be able to kind of sit and see this is how you do things. Now, I think the best of both worlds for Kyle Shanahan is for Trey Lance to see how Jimmy does things, take some of that, and put that on his skill set and what he does. And now you have like this kind of monster of a quarterback, right? I think that's what Kyle Shanahan is looking for, and how he's looking to develop.
That's my point.
Trey Lance.
And people are taking this to the extent of me saying that those guys sat. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is it doesn't necessarily matter who they sat behind. They had an opportunity to learn the game from sitting, right? So
Carson Palmer sat behind John Kitna for a year.
There you go. And Carson Palmer played 15 years in the NFL, and they were doing well and tore his ACL before Pittsburgh ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. So they probably beat Pittsburgh if he doesn't tear his ACL or get hurt or whatever the hell it may be. So it's not necessarily about who they're sitting behind. To an extent it is. But would you want Trey Lance to be sitting behind CJ Beathard or
right.
one of the other dudes, right? Like Jimmy Garoppolo isn't a terrible dude to be learning from because he's operated that offense well. He's done things well. Do I think that when Trey comes in at some point or another, I guess we'll probably see, obviously, but whether Trey comes in and operates that offense as fluid and as smooth, that might be – that's the expectations. Now, when you get somebody like Trey Lance that's going to do that, we talked about that before, high risk, high reward. There's going to be some throws he's going to make that he's going to try and push the ball in certain places that Jimmy doesn't necessarily do because Jimmy can't do it. And so that's where you get those random interceptions here and there, or those deflections or the drive killers, whatever it may be, because you're trying to force things that aren't wide open. You've overlooked one or two just to go to three. And that's what's made Tom Brady really good. And Jimmy learned from Tom Brady. That's what made Tom Brady really good is you watch Tom Brady takes 1 and 2, like the first and second progressions a lot. Last 2 minutes of the game, Tom Brady's got the ball in his hands. Do you see how many deep balls do you see go down the field with Tom Brady? When I'm talking about Tom Brady before he went to the Buccaneers, not a ton. Right?
I was gonna say because we're talking about with Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich.
No.
Out.
I'm not talking about the person. The person, not the personnel he's got right now. I'm talking about what the 6 rings that
we've known him to be. Like right,
yeah,
we've known him to be a guy that just ball out
under. Yeah, it's a lot. I do have a question. It's a lot of what Jimmy Garoppolo does.
I have a question for you. All right, because there's one thing that I've noticed with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I actually sent the text message to my guy Rich Madrid this morning. And I was like, man, I don't see Jimmy do a certain thing. And I've seen it from Trey Lance, and I'm like, well, how can I see it from a guy that needs that seasoning and he's doing it, and I never see it from Jimmy Garoppolo? But I think maybe you can help me. You can help me understand. So Jimmy, I never see him manipulate coverage. Is that like a New England thing? Or like I never see him and I've seen it from Trey Lance. Like I've seen Trey Lance look left to hold somebody in coverage and then know like I want to come back here and make that throw. And I've seen Trey Lance do it, but Jimmy, it's typically he pops up, he stares at where he wants to throw, and he throws it in there, understanding the timing and the rhythm and which it takes. And there was a play, there was a corner post yesterday by Brandon Ayuk, and there was a too high safety, so he stares it down. The backside safety staring at it, so he can't throw it. So then he's looking, and he just comes down to his check down, hits his check down, picks up 9 yards or whatever, right? Well, one thing that I noticed was as soon as he looked left, the other safety stopped his feet. So it's like, why can't you, and maybe you can help me understand this, why can't you drop back, look at the check down or look at something else, knowing you want to get Ayuk on the corner post, which he whooped that too high safety on the other side. So if that other safety wasn't in the picture, it would be a touchdown. If you get him to stop his feet and you're able to throw it out there, it'd be a touchdown. But I don't see him do those things. Is that just maybe how his mind works, or just maybe doesn't have that aggressive nature? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that when you look at the way that the offense is set up, we don't see a ton of deep routes. The one thing that you see from Jimmy is throwing on time, right? So he doesn't necessarily have to manipulate the way that the plays are set up and the ways that the play calls are. He's a lot of play action. He probably throws more off play action than most people in the NFL, right? So he does a lot of play action stuff. And then by the time he pops his head around, he takes one hitch and boom, the ball's out of his hand. So I think it's the way that Shanahan has set up the offense, not necessarily so much in a pure progression state where he's going from full field scans to maybe half field scans, from the inside of the field to the hash or whatever it may be. And it might be like, an under or drive concept with an under route and the dig behind it, or, double slants or things like that. So a lot of the timing stuff for their offense is, a lot of the route concepts are timing and on-time throws, not so much pure progression, move the safety or whoever it may be with your eyes and then come back to the other side of the field. One, those obviously take longer, but two, it just depends, like on the corner post you're talking about, depends on the backside safety, right? So if he busts the front side safety, he's toasted, and you get the backside safety. It depends on the route concept. If there's nobody to hold the backside safety, then he's basically playing center field anyways. So maybe Jimmy saw that and then goes down to the check down. But if you have somebody that's pushing like a corner route and then you got a post behind it, now you take that backside safety, the front side safety gets whooped and he's wide open. But again, right, you don't really see him actually force the ball down the field. Those are those throws where
I'm going to show you what I'm talking about too from Trey. But like I saw this from Trey and I'm like, damn, I don't ever see like Jimmy do this type of stuff. So like on this play here, you see Trey, like he's looking left, knowing he wants to come back right. Like, hold on, let me pause it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So his feet are set to the left. He's just basically getting that backer to move out of the way, right?
Yeah,
so
I'm getting the backer.
Number one there.
Look right here. He's looking at the backer. The backer says, "Okay, let me look this way," and he's holding him, knowing the whole time I want to go here. Like, and I know I want to go here, but right, I just need to move this backer out of this window. So he's looking, and then now, gotcha, and he just boom fires it in there, right? So like I just look at that and I'm like, man, like if the rookie, like, why don't I see Jimmy doing those type of things,
I think I honestly I'm gonna pay attention to it a little bit more, but I see him look off, but I don't like. I think you're right. Like a lot of the throws we see are on time throws. That's an on time throw, which is great. You saw in like a basic route or a dig route, right there. The linebacker's looking inside, probably to number one. Number one gets wide, and he's getting his eyes back to the quarterback. And Trey does a great job of holding him. Pops back one hitch, ball's on the money, moving the chains, or obviously a touchdown, whatever it may be. So I think you do see it. I just don't think that, and that's one thing that Jimmy has, I think, struggled with a little bit is the ability to move defenders where he will stay and key on guys, and then he'll throw in that tight window, which right there, that would be a tight window for most people in the NFL. That was a pretty big window, right? Because everything seems to be a lot tighter, obviously, in the NFL. Where Jimmy would maybe stare down the defender, not necessarily shift his body, but hold him. But he's looking him straight up in the field, so he's not necessarily moving him to the left there.
Right.
And he would end up throwing that ball in a tighter window. Now, he does a good job at it, but like I said earlier, it becomes risky, and it gets a little bit fuzzy across the middle, and he does it with confidence. But some of those throws he makes, you're like, oh, shit. Like, you kind of got away with one there. And I think he could definitely help himself out by using his eyes or setting his body like Trey did. So Trey sets his body left instead of just looking left. Trey sets his body left. So you look at linebackers that are obviously looking through into the backfield. You see a guy that's looking left with his body and not just eyes. Yeah, you're going to be influenced likely to move out of the way. So I think that Jimmy could do a better job of actually moving his body position and then shifting that quick flip back to the right side like you just saw right there from Trey Lance. So
yeah, and that's again, not to say I know some people are talking about reads and stuff. Like Jimmy Garoppolo goes through reads well. I think he understands his reads and things like that. Like when he drops back and he looks at the coverage and okay, they take away this, then I need to go to this. I think he does that well. What I'm talking about is it's a little different. It's just manipulating coverage. I know as a defensive back, if a guy gets up and he looks at me, I'm thinking, well, he's probably coming to this side, or okay, maybe something is coming from this side. Let me look over there, and it just holds me for a second. So when you see a guy like Trey Lance as a rookie, I mean, it's like this is the rookie that everybody is saying like, oh well, he's not, and I'm not saying he's ready to just take on a full game plan, but those are the things that give me like the optimism that he's going to be, a solid quarterback. But I think it's just seeing him do it in a preseason game. And I thought that was a high level play. And he did it again to throw down the right sideline where to my guy, Trent Sherfield, where he did the same thing. Right. Looked at the safety, held the safety, and then threw a nice touch ball to Trent Sherfield, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's wide open." Well, yeah, it's wide open because he held the safety off. I'm like, man, I just don't see Jimmy do those things, and I would like to see it, but I guess by the time Jimmy gets it, it's probably not going to matter because he's going to be gone.
Right, and that's the thing. As I see here, it says Greg is high key a Jimmy fan in the comments. So let me ask you this: Are you a somebody that wants to see Jimmy not do well? Like, I'm not in love with Jimmy Garoppolo, but at the same time, it's hard not to like somebody that doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
Right.
In all reality. Right? I mean, you tell me, like, why wouldn't you at this point? If you're a true fan or a true Niner fan, why wouldn't you really like Jimmy Garoppolo with what he's doing right now? Do you want to see him fail just so you could rush the rookie into the game? And then you rush the rookie in, and then maybe he's not ready, and you start to see errors, and what are you going to do? Go throw Jimmy back into the game? And then you take yourself out of contention and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, they're in a good spot right now because look at what's going on in the NFC West. You go beat the Rams, you go beat the Jags, and they beat them up pretty good, obviously. And the Jags are the Jags, but that defense is pretty stiff with the Jags. Turnovers and penalties killed them yesterday. So we'll see over the next couple of weeks. Do I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be here next year? No. Am I a fan of Jimmy? Yeah, I think I'm a fan of Jimmy. I think it's hard not to be a fan of Jimmy because of what he does. And people, I also saw in the comments, and it's a good reminder, people seem to forget how shitty the Niners were before Jimmy Garoppolo showed up.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't
have
a
question
win
for you
season.
right here.
Jimmy Garoppolo shows up 6-0.
So here's a question from our guy Trey. Says, Greg, do you think Kyle can mask Trey's faults the way he does for Jimmy? I'm not saying Jimmy should be benched right now, for the record too. So he's just saying, do you think that the way that Kyle plays, this is what he's saying. He said use fault, but the way that Kyle is able to play to Jimmy Garoppolo's strengths and it result in wins, do you think that he can do that for Trey Lance? I want to start off by answering this a little bit, then I'll get your. I think you can, mask someone's deficiencies or whatnot, or play to their strengths. I think there's still a base level of quarterbacking that you need to have to be able to have a certain level of success that you want. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that he can. I mean, obviously Shanahan has done well with went to playoffs with RG3. Yeah, Kirk Cousins. Yeah, Matt Ryan. He's obviously with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that he would find ways to do it. And I think the Arizona game was like a trial, which that was a trash can of a trial for what he tried to do with Trey Lance. I think he would. I think that what you're going to get though is he'll be able to, and I know this is what we've talked about as well, is when you get Trey Lance in there, he will be able to open up the playbook a little bit more. Hopefully, right? Given the fact that Trey can actually push the ball down the field. So when you talk about a little bit of diversity within the offense, like you're probably going to start to see some more of the deep balls that you saw in Atlanta with Matt Ryan. Now we don't have a Julio Jones, but we got some pretty good dudes. And I think that once Trey Lance comes along and is able to throw the ball down the field, I'm hoping that they would go get a big time outside receiver, a bigger physical type of receiver outside, because we can push the ball downfield. But realistically in the offense right now, where do you see a big time receiver fitting anyways, just because we don't push the ball down the field as much. And a lot of it is quick game West Coast offense, just like Tom Brady had. Tom Brady didn't have a big physical receiver until they got Randy Moss for, the year or two, whatever he was there. And that's when they started pushing the ball down the field. So I think he could. I think he would mask some of the deficiencies that Trey has, and there's going to be plenty of them. There's going to be growing pains that you're going to get. And like I said, it's high risk, high reward. You're going to start pushing the ball down the field a little bit more. You're going to start utilizing his arm talent. There's going to be some errors. DBs are going to win. Defense is going to win at some point too. It's not just, killing the defense over and over and over again. Guys are going to take advantage of him being younger. They're going to disguise coverages. That's all of the things that you're going to see with Trey Lance. That Jimmy has been in the NFL long enough, and Kyle has figured out what Jimmy's game is, and that's why you see 16 for 22 or 17 for 23 or 20 for 28, whatever it may be, and there's not a ton of sexy throws downfield. It's because that's not Jimmy's game, but I think that he would be able to open up the playbook more and start having those deeper concepts that are going to take a little bit longer to develop. I think obviously you're going to see a lot more from the run game with the quarterback position. I think that play action stuff under center, especially with Trey Lance's ability to take off and run, given the fact that, if he's doing the same stuff that Jimmy's doing, holding play actions or carrying out fakes, you're going to take more defenders with you. So I think when Trey's time comes, it's going to be fun to watch. But I don't think that. I think if you threw him in right now, I don't think he would do bad. But I would put it more on Shanahan to actually put him in a good position currently right now to have success. And that's the issue, is I don't think that even Shanahan is ready for necessarily what Trey Lance brings, in my opinion, given what he showed with the Cardinals game, which was completely different than anything we've seen from the Niners offense. So, or anything that Shanahan has run. So I think that you're going to be able to see a ton of balls pushed down the field, a ton of deeper throws, comebacks, things like that you don't see from Jimmy. But through that, you're going to see some mistakes. You're going to see some balls that are thrown up in the air that you're probably going to question here and there. And that's all right. It's football at the end of the day. So, yeah, I think he could. I think that Shanahan will figure out a way.
And I'll always say this too. We get so caught up on every little either positive or negative thing from our own team. Go watch some other quarterbacks. and watch, some of the things that happen within their games, some of their misses, or, some of their big plays that they have. And I think, we'll see it's not always great. People made a big deal out of Trey Lance and the batted down balls, but, you watched last night, Justin Herbert threw a ball, hit somebody in the helmet, ball pops up, getting intercepted,
Right.
and, it almost resulted in a loss for the LA Chargers. So, we can look at every negative with our team, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it's Trey Lance, but just go check out how some of these other dudes. I say with our DBs too. Everybody, our DBs are trash. Go watch some of these other DBs and some of the coverages that they're blowing and how they're playing on a consistent basis. And it's not pretty, I think, the way people think.
And here's the thing, the stat came out last year, and there's two things. You watched Trevor Lawrence yesterday. He didn't look terrible. He's playing against the Niners defense. He didn't throw any picks yesterday, but there's a few times where it gets a little fuzzy in the pocket, and in times where you might see Jimmy stay in there and make a throw and take contact on. You watch Trevor's feet, and he was like, the balls that he was throwing were still like he would throw throwaways, but they almost weren't throwaways. They were kind of like outside to try and still hit the receiver. And those are the type of risky throws you're going to get from a young guy, where it should be a throwaway and they still try and force something in there. And Trevor did that yesterday. But also, we talked about it, or I talked about it earlier with Josh. And you look at Mahomes, okay? So Pat Mahomes, obviously, everybody knows his game and what he can do and the ability to throw the ball down the field and make these sexy sidearm throws and off-platform stuff and no-look things or whatever it may be. And it's all good. Right? Everybody can agree that they would take Patrick Mahomes right now on the Niners. I'm almost positive everybody would say that, right? But at the same time, they showed a stat last year with Mahomes and the luck that was associated with him. I think that Mahomes, I got to go back and try and find the exact numbers, but I remember it came out just after the Falcons game last year. Mahomes threw like a seam route or a post route, and it would have been game over. DB jumps up right out of the DB's hands, drops it. Okay, the DB catches the ball. They get the ball on the 20, take the knee, game over. Chiefs lose to the Falcons, right? No, DB drops it, wide open in his hands, drops it. The next play, Mahomes throws a touchdown, okay? After that game, they came out with a stat because Mahomes had like 10 picks or 9 picks or something like that. They came out with a stat, and Mahomes led the league at the time in dropped interceptions.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about the luck factor behind that. If Patrick Mahomes threw 35 touchdowns and 22 interceptions or 20 interceptions, whatever it was, because I think he had like 13 dropped interceptions or 12 dropped interceptions at that point with 9 interceptions already. Okay. So if he finished the year with 35 touchdowns, 21 picks, what do you think people would say about him? It's mediocre numbers, right? There's too many interceptions.
He's Jameis Winston.
That's what you get. Right. That's what you get with a guy like that. Is he good? Yes. But high risk, high reward. They make throws with their arm that others can't make. And in doing so, they're going to force some things, and you're going to see some errors occur. With Jimmy, he can't make those damn throws. So you're really not going to see a ton of those errors anyways. That's my point, is the efficiency from that. He doesn't even try to make those throws because he knows he can't make them anyways. But on the flip side, it's not sexy, and he doesn't push the ball downfield. And all of us, I think, are hungry to see what could that offense be at the next level. Like, Trey could take us to the next level because he can push that ball down the field like Jimmy can't. But again, you're going to see some of those mistakes happen. So Patrick Mahomes, great. He does a lot of good things, but he gets a lot of luck too. He has a lot of luck in the things that he does. Like I said, led the league, I think, last year in dropped interceptions. So a lot of people would say he'd be mediocre if he came out, like you said, Jameis Winston. Those are Jameis Winston numbers. You throw 20-something interceptions to, 30 or 40 touchdowns. So I think people would look at him different if he didn't have that luck factor. But with a guy like him, a guy like Trey Lance, guys like Josh, guys with big arms, Favre, right? They put the ball in places that is you sit and stop and look at your friends or whoever you're watching. Like, did he really just make that damn throw? For the good and the bad, right? Like you
Right.
make these crazy 50-yard cross field throws. You're like, holy smokes. And then he makes another one when the DB undercuts it. And you're like, what the hell is he doing? So you're going to get a little bit of both. But I think that with Shanahan's playbook, it's going to look good because he will set up Trey, I think, and I hope that he will set up Trey like he does with Jimmy to play towards Trey's game, that he won't force him to make first year starting. He won't force him to make those true pure progression reads where he'll have set up routes underneath because he's done really well as an offensive coach. He's pretty smart, obviously, with setup, with calling things just like last year or 2 years ago in the Super Bowl or the playoff game where he's looking at the ref on the sideline. He's going to hold him right here. Like he knows what's going to happen, right? He knows his scripted plays. He knows what's going to happen. It's whether they execute it on offense or not, typically. So that's my perspective on that.
All right, man. Shoes, you've been gracious with your time, man. I'm gonna get you out of here now, Greg. I appreciate you coming on, bro.
Yep. No, you got it, man. I appreciate you guys.
They're going crazy in the chat right now, man. There's a lot going on there. But
what are they saying right now?
They're talking about like Colin Kaepernick.
The Niners, Mike?
No, no, they're talking about Kaepernick and some other stuff.
Oh, I'll let that stay to the chat. They can go have at it then.
Yeah. All right, man. But I appreciate
there's no
you
winning in the chat. You know that. There's no winning in the chat, folks.
No winning.
There's no winning, but have at it.
No winning. All right, man.
Croc,
appreciate you coming on. We're gonna go to break when I get back.
Oh, wait, hey, you coming to the game this week? You coming to the game this week?
I might. I got a ticket for me, so
Stevie ain't gonna let you come to the game.